All right, good evening, guys. Thanks for your patience. Nightly strategy podcast for March 8th, 2023. Start with the We'll start with the ritual crash. Uh, Start with the swing portfolio. All right, so we've got Alcoa. Everything here is on 30 minutes. So yesterday we took the overnight trade and we held it on three positions short. Today it gapped up and started uh, moving up, so we took it at the edge of the dragon for about 7R, and then Alcoa just kind of held support sideways, consolidating. So I'm expecting more on the upside tomorrow. Um, Caterpillar had some room to wiggle on that one, so I let it drift all day. If I were to do it again, I think I should have taken the exit here and maybe tried to play short. But the market was already failing by this point by the time the RL10 got through, so I just held it and I was happy to get out down here. I think this was the much better exit, more consistent. Cliff, we had one position short. It also started recovering, so we took that one and then initiated the SSC here with the standard risk. We are, it actually, in that last hour, everything kind of moved up and closed nicely. So we have a little bit in the bank there, but I was happy to just get out of the short. CVS, we were short yesterday. Today it met at the PSAR and voted down, so on the collapsing dragon here. Took the second position short. It closed weakly, so that's got two positions short and feels like more weakness tomorrow. Diamonds was a one-day payoff on this continuation. It tried and then failed, so on that little R10 wiggle in reverse, and I just took the one-day little bump. The market was closing really strongly in that last hour, so we took the 0.3 gain. I did not want to be short U.S. indexes going into tomorrow. Devon Energy was also a one-day intraday little snack for +1. Let's see, Electronic Arts. This we got out of this one yesterday, and today there was an SSC, and I'm looking to see that kind of a move from this support level, and it didn't really do much until that last half hour when it closed here. So we've got a no lose plus dinner for 2 in hand, and we're long on that position. Emerging markets, all we did was cover the short. On the opening, it showed some strength, so we closed, and then just observed it getting into a nice zero state, ready for a breakout in either direction tomorrow. Mexico, we were short yesterday, covered at the opening when it did not fail further, gapped up and started to go. And then after this little gyration around in here, it consolidated and started taking off. So we're long on the COTA 2. Standard risk. This is Brazil. So Brazil was the interesting one. Now, yesterday, I thought really hard about taking that SSC near the close because it was already more than one risk box off the bottom. But I didn't like this choppiness, so we just waited to see what would happen. And then there was about a 5R gap up. It moved an MMRB off the bottom, and that first bar, it raced all the way to the top and then started failing. So I just cashed +1. It then ran up again and then cascaded down here and then started supporting. So I just decided to take that +1 and put it right back in for the swing tomorrow because it closed pretty well. And bottom line is, after all that smoke, we had +1 and we're holding the position for tomorrow. It took me longer to explain that trade than the trade lasted in the first bar. So Intel was a one-day bump yesterday. We took that one. Today it kind of opened here, started breaking out to the upside, gave me an SSC, so we're long on a standard risk. And this thing closed really well in that all the semis did, and it closed at the top of the day. So we're holding +1 and looking for more tomorrow to get back to the top here. All the semis were strong today. So it felt like a rotation day. International paper, it did not fail further. So we just cashed it at the PSAR flip. I observed it, and I have no position in it. IWAR, we also closed that one right after the opening. It did not fail further, so we gave back about an R. Marijuana, it was a nothing. It was this was a big early morning move, but I had no will to trade that one. Clean energy, this was a yesterday it closed here. Today it gapped down to here, sold off, and then a 1, 2, 3 exit, decided to cash that. It then failed further, but made a higher low. And so I thought very strongly in that last half hour about the SSC. I elected not to take it. I just want to wait and see for tomorrow. If tomorrow this thing is going to continue back up like it did here from the same price level, then we should be able to get a piece of this without taking any of the overnight risk. So that will be my plan. Rivian, this was a failure to fail further, and got the PSAR flip here, and it just kept going, so I decided to hold that one overnight. Standard risk. So we're long one in Rivian. Treasuries was nothing after the previous trade was a scratch. Doesn't feel directional. Tesla was a big sell-off early. From here down to the gap, it sold off and then refused to fail any further. So this is actually front-running the SSC tomorrow. I'm taking that as this sideways chop as a positive sign, and so I'm long from here. That's front-running the SSC for sure. So that's a speculative one. Don't try that at home. And then last one was U.S. Steel. Like all the other metals, it did not fail further. So we cashed it in the Dragon and then took the SSC in the usual way. And it also, in that last half hour, closed very well at 29.60. So we're holding about half an hour. So today felt like a transition day across the board, and we cashed some trades. We didn't really, except for CVS, we didn't really get anything that was a continuation from yesterday's short. So there we are. That's why it feels like a reversal day. Intraday sniper trade of the day. This is in Mexico. So we are in EWW on the 3-minute. Here was yesterday's close. This was a gap up to here, and then started taking off to the upside when it moved an MMRB off the bottom. That's just a frog entry technique. I'm long with one standard MMRB of risk, and here's the gap that was in our favor, creating that little zone of separation, if you will. So that puts my stop right there. Check or hold. It immediately comes all the way back, so I just basically scratched. I was hoping for a no lose plus dinner for 2, but this move up and then down happened so fast that I was just lucky to get out of it with a scratch. And then it reversed immediately after bottom ticking me here. And then there was a continuation. So I re-enter here and now put the same standard risk box on it. Now it looks like this. Check or hold. I take about a half an hour win on that one. You know, it's in my favor and then starts falling back. So I preserve that part of the win. And then again, get bottom ticked. And then I take the emerging dragon entry. Standard risk. Immediate scratch. So now I thought about this one. With so little follow through on my trades, I was tempted to take the SSC right here. But that felt like a revenge trade, and I don't want to be revenge trading. I want to be measured. Now, the if you take that short, the low of the day is here, and then closing the gap to yesterday's close could be a target. So if you've got a standard risk box on this one, you wouldn't be wrong if you took that one. I didn't have the will to do that. And then immediately regretted. But I did take the SSC. So if you had played the short position here, you'd have been good to go. You would not have lost money on that one. SSC, standard risk box. About half an hour. Now I try the Kata 2 to the downside because there feels like there's very little follow through today. Because we have a high, lower high, a lower high again, and now a collapsing dragon. So that feels like a combination of a Kata 2, a supported winter crossing, because as you see, it went from the summer to the fall to the winter, and it's failing. It feels like an owl in that sense too, because the dragon is clearly rolled over. So, you know, my first target would be here. If that fails, I'm looking for a return to the low of the day and then down to close the gap to yesterday's opening. So we try that one short. Instant scratch. Stop and reverse, because if it's not going to fail, then this feels like a Kata 2. Instant scratch. And that's sort of like, all right, you know what? I get you. Nothing. So today's sniper trade of the day, we got basically a scratch, a scratch, a scratch, a fraction. We got about 1 on this one, a scratch. So this is about 1 hour the hard way. Just not much follow through. And really, it was the size of the intraday. I mean, this is a nice move off the bottom. But it was oscillating so much on the way up that there was no reasonable way to stay in that trade. Even though the channel was up, the size of those oscillations was too great. And then when the day unfolded, it just was a sideways grind. So there was no movement to capitalize on. So I feel lucky to get out of there with 1 hour. All right, let's find the traders. All right, here's Arch. Down under. He's trading the dollar yen. He gets the SSC. gets paid with a beautiful exit because it hit his target and he called it a day. 1.7. Now there was a COT of 2 all day, but he made his bank in an hour and went about the rest of his life, and there's nothing wrong with that. An hour and a half a day is 340 R a year. Just got to do that every day. All right, here's Tim with Alcoa. Alcoa, this was another, today was just a choppy day. The same kind of chop that I showed you with Mexico was evident everywhere, and there just wasn't much room in here for Tim. Here's that was the close. Here's the gap. He's able to get in here, gets paid a little bit. Continuation trade, gets out. Tries the continuation. I think maybe took more of a loss than we needed to. Then gets paid a little and a reasonable exit. There just wasn't any follow through on this today. It's the kind of day where you're just making sawdust in spite of the fact that there's a channel to the upside. So we may have ground a little too much in there. I'm not sure. I like this trade because it's clearly rolled over, but there just wasn't much range today. The lack of range for the day actually is a favorable sign for tomorrow. His experience in NVIDIA. Now, this is one where there were moves in the semiconductors, like this OR3. He gets the entry, preserves. Now we got to hit one of those two in order to get that move. I don't mind that short. I think you stayed too long. And when this one rolled over here and then couldn't even breach the gap down to the VWAP and starts reversing, I'd like to see you get out in here and try to scratch that. So there was a little bit of a move, but not much. That would have put you slightly in the green. Woj, this was part of just the natural chop of the day. Let's see. It gets a little choppy in here. Missed his exit here, and then missing the COT of 2s on all of that move. Tesla, as you can see, was very range bound and choppy all day, so that's going to grind you a bit. And again, this was a hard channel to trade. Today was just a day it was hard to trade in our way. But he's able to minimize the damage on a day when all four of those go against him, and he only loses an R. That's a pretty good day at work. Good discipline all the way through. All right, let's look at the. Let's see here. So today's 30 minute. Is it here? Yeah. So this is 30-minute chart on the S&P. So this is 5 days, 10 days. This is today's move. So as you can see, this was just a consolidation chop halfway between the 10 and 30-day low and the 10-day high. So I take it as a positive sign that it did not fail and that it was actually able in the last hour to roll up and close at 399. So if it can get through tomorrow's 400 tomorrow, then I think there's a good chance for at least halfway up the stack. I'd see 404 in range. So to me, this was a perfect zero state kind of a day. It's ready for a breakout in either direction. So I would have no directional bias tomorrow, and ready to respond. Some trades from our auto framer that are setting up with favorable reward to risks. We'll take a look at the ones that are above 2-to-1. So I'm trying to operationalize this report, not just review what happened, but look at the ones that actually are favorable for us. So this thick blue line is the 2-to-1 reward to risk ratio and better on the basis of the auto framer's reward to risk ratio. Um, and from the so Tesla at 3.7 to 1, Alcoa 2.8 to 1. What I like is that Alcoa was strong, as was Cliff, as was U.S. Steel. I mean, U.S. Steel 2%, Cliff 1.67, Alcoa 1.69. What I like about Alcoa is that all the metals were strong, and Alcoa is still 2.8 to 1 on a return to the 10-day high. That's how far it's traded off, so I like that. I'm concerned about oil making a recovery here, so if you're short Devon, I think you better get ready to get out of that, because oil is still 2.2 to 1 on the auto framer, and so that sets up a value play to the upside. Clean energy is at an inflection point, and 2 to 1. It made an SSC today, so we want to be ready for that. Otherwise, it's mostly the defensive plays are better than 2 to 1. I do want to just notice that the metals all had a really good day today at 1.69, 1.67, and 2%. That's good for the metals. Devon Energy is only 1 to 1, down 1%. And then all of the semiconductors were very strong today. They were so strong that they don't have favorable swing trade ratios, but their numbers were so good today that I think you have to say, yep, both semiconductors and metals could experience a second day follow through tomorrow. So I'm going to be ready on an intraday bounce. I don't think it's a great swing trade yet, but I think there's a chance to get well started on the 3 minutes for those guys. All right. Excuse me. We become sideways volatile. Had a little bit of recovery today. Risk Z is slightly pointing up at risk on. In the tactical, plenty of auto framers setting up well. And I think today's failure to fail now makes those look pretty attractive. And again, I like the semiconductor strength in Intel, NVIDIA, and Texas Instruments. Same thing for the ETFs. Lots of good, favorable reward to risk ratios here. The Latin Americans did pretty well today. Energy and oil were losers. Whoops, sorry about that. Here, yeah. Easy. All right. Some aggressive Godzillas here, and some double quiet stealthy Godzillas. Again, Z-score less than 0 gives you the stealthy ones. Volatile Godzillas gives you the green. Not in the tactical symbol set. I'm noticing 3M. CVS, our little buddy, we got a short position on that already. Pfizer. In our tactical symbol set, only Rivian has anything like volatility, and even that's not much. This failure to fail feels like a market that's digesting and is ready to work. We have a couple of the cryptos that had some strength, Ethereum and Bitcoin. Otherwise, more things suffering than anything else. Not much else to see there. Today was in a holding pattern, if I can say it that way. On the frog list for trading values, Tesla, marijuana, Nvidia. So there's your semis. And energy ready to trade. Clean energy ready to trade. So you've got some good candidates in there. And that's everything I want to cover today. We'll just be ready for excursions from the sideways volatile market. That's the maximum chaos that you can have, is sideways volatile. All right. All right, that's everything I got. We'll get it published and posted, and see you tomorrow.